You've been assigned a research paper. So now it's time to complete your research paper proposal and in the process, develop your research question. So let's get started. I'm using this research paper proposal template. I'm going to break it down for you, and I'll also include a link to the template in the video description. So first of all, you've got a general topic that you're going to research. This might be very broad if your instructor has given you a lot of leeway, or it may be focused depending on the discipline that you're studying or your instructor's guidelines. So I'm going to be working with the topic of food insecurity. So that's my general topic. But within that topic, I need to develop a research question. This is the question that I'm seeking to answer through my research. I shouldn't already know the answer to the question because that makes it not really a research project or research paper. So my research question that I'm going to be working with is, what are the best ways to reduce food insecurity in the US? There are many other questions I could use, but this is the one I'm going to focus on. And you'll notice that I'm focusing specifically on the US. Obviously, there's food insecurity issues in many places of the world, but I want to narrow the scope of what I'm working with to just what's happening within the United States. So the next question I ask my students is where they stand on the issue and what do they think the answer is. This helps to identify any biases they may have. It helps to give me an idea of what it is they're hoping to find in their research. So for my topic, I'm indicating that I think food insecurity is a more common issue in the US than many people realize. And I think the solution may be found in a combination of large-scale government programs and community-based charities. Okay, so moving on. The next piece involves developing more focused questions that will help me to find the information to answer my big inquiry question. So I like to start with the basics, sort of the topic by the numbers, terminology, that sort of thing. It may seem really obvious, but this information will be the foundation for setting up your paper so that your reader understands what it is you're actually talking about. So we're going to start really basic here with my first question. What is food insecurity? How do we define it? How do we know that it exists? What are the thresholds for being food insecure? Next, I'm going to look at how prevalent is food insecurity in the United States. So here I'm looking for statistics. I want to know just how many people are hungry. Next, I'm looking at in which geographic areas is food insecurity most common. So by geographic areas here, I just sort of mean, are we talking about the western part of the US? Are we talking about the Midwest? Are we talking about the South? Sort of big geographical areas. Are there particular states where it's a bigger issue than in other states? That sort of thing. Next, what groups based on age, location, so urban areas versus rural areas, race, other groups and factors, demographic information, are most affected by food insecurity? My next question is, what's the status quo? So what programs currently exist at the federal and state level to combat food insecurity? This could be a pretty complicated question, especially because it may vary significantly by state. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to find out. What are the challenges in reducing food insecurity? So obviously this is a problem. So what are the challenges that these groups face and programs face? Next up, how effective are food banks in helping to feed people? I know that there's food banks all over the country, but I want to know, are they effectively reaching the people who are hungry? Another question I have has to do with fresh produce. So I want to know, and I don't know the answer to this, do people have access to fresh produce at food banks, or is it just non-perishable items? Next, what other community-based programs are in place to help feed people? So this may be charitable organizations, it may be faith-based organizations, it may involve other state programs that may or may not be nonprofit, or there's lots of different programs I assume are out there, and I need to research that. And then lastly, can community gardens help provide produce to food insecure families? Now you notice this covers a lot of ground. 10 questions is quite a bit of would require quite a bit of research. Also note that it's not necessary to answer all of these questions in my research paper. I will probably end up narrowing down my topic a bit. And this just gives me a place to start in my research so I can use the key terms here and the questions to find information to answer my big question about what are the best ways to combat food insecurity. Lastly, I ask my students, why do they care, or why should we care about the issue? I always want students to think about the big picture. So sometimes we choose a topic that is really important to us in our lives personally, but we may fail to make that importance known to our reader on a large scale. So why should other people care about this topic? So here, I've just written that I've known people who did not have enough to eat, primarily students in my life that were food insecure. I also think that access to sufficient food is a basic necessity that affects the ability of people to learn, work, and remain healthy. So even though we may have enough to eat, if we live in a community where others do not, it will affect our community at large. And then I think we should be able to ensure that all residents have access to enough food. Okay, so lastly, what's your next step? You've now got your research paper proposal done. You know what your research question is. You know what your sub-questions are, your guiding questions. So what's the next step? You guessed it. The next step is to begin conducting research. Thanks for watching.